I didn't wake up one day and just decide I was over cycling. And while I say cycling, I think this is something that a lot of us run into with anything that we love doing. Because when the spark fades, it puts everything into question. It crept in with the weather. First the darkness, then the cold. The rain stopped being romantic, and every day felt less exciting to get out the door. Like my motivation was straight up lying to me. In the past, that never mattered. I'd just go. But then this year, mid-ride, I found myself thinking, do I actually want to be out here? And that was new. And yet, I still rode. But the excitement wasn't there. And my brain went straight into panic mode. Am I falling out of love with this? Maybe the thing that's defined my life for the last 25 years is finally fading away. The walls started closing in. If this keeps on, then who am I? Then an even darker fear crept in. This isn't even about bikes. This is about aging, slowing down, and losing momentum. Watching something that was fun slowly transform into chore. Gross. And wondering if this is how it all starts to fall apart. And when that feeling shows up, my brain wants answers. And the stupid thing doesn't ask gently. It jumps straight to the worst case scenario. After those rides, I kept telling myself, I guess this is just what I do now. I don't know what else I'd even do. So why doesn't it feel like anything? That loop just kept repeating. And then the comparison showed up. Which, this never used to be a problem. After so many years, how does this suddenly start to happen? Am I broken? Did I overdo it this summer? Why the hell does everyone else look like they're having fun? Why do I feel like I'm the only one who's not? I mean, I've tried fixing it in some pretty obvious ways. Just push through. At a cafe stop. Didn't help. Every ride I forced, I resented. That kind of freaked me out. Because the question I wouldn't admit to saying out loud was simple. Is this it? Am I done? And if I am, then who exactly am I supposed to be now? If I was really done, would I still be riding? But I was. And that didn't line up. Even when I was telling myself I was losing my motivation, my days didn't really stop. I kept moving forward. Not fired up, not excited, just kept moving. Yet that didn't match the story in my head. Yet I still showed up to the practice, consistently, automatically, with no big emotions attached. Yet that didn't match the story in my head. That surprised me, because part of me expected everything to just fall apart. Oh, Jesus. Instead, it felt oddly stable. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't inspiring or miserable, just stable. Often annoying, sometimes relieving. Kind of like my body knew something my mind didn't. Even on days when I didn't want to do it, how I felt afterwards didn't line up with the negative narrative. It wasn't worse. In fact, usually it was slightly better. Enough to stop and think, maybe this isn't what I've been building it up to be. The story that started to crack wasn't the one constructed in my mind. The one that said this was pointless. That the feeling meant I was off track. The days were still stacking up, and my experience after kept nudging higher, even when my thoughts stayed negative, which made me question whether the feeling was actually the problem. Just because I didn't have the answers didn't mean something was broken. When I stopped pushing against the feeling, it didn't disappear, but it did get lighter. But I didn't do more, and I didn't go harder. I just kept doing the same thing without the pressure. And it changed it more than I expected. The guilt eased first, then the noise, and what stuck around felt slower, quieter, calmer. It was a letting go of trying to prove anything. But the feeling wasn't telling me to quit. It was asking for a different pace, an altered perspective. The old pattern, loud, always more, always next. And this interrupted that, but not dramatically, just enough to notice. Before, I never asked why. I just went. But now, it sits closer to the surface. It's not exciting, And it's not heroic. It's just steady. It's like the internal dialogue shifted from something's wrong to maybe this is part of the process. No panic, no fix, just noticing. And that feeling kept showing up the same way. It wasn't chaotic, it wasn't random, it was consistent. Like a signal that didn't need a reaction, just attention. And when I stopped reacting to it, something steadier started carrying the weight. A very important message. Now, before we go any further, I have something very important I need to show you. This is something that's going to affect our lives for the next 15 years and have a dramatic impact on this channel. Allow me to introduce to you Emerson Danger Clum. He's a 3-pound, 3-month Yorkshire Terrier, and he's never actually even had a haircut. And he's gonna be in the videos occasionally, as long as he can remember his lines. At least as good as I can. And I figured I should introduce him. Plus, what kind of adventures would you like to see with Emerson? Slowly, without much ceremony, the heaviness faded. Nothing dramatically snapped back into place. Things just felt aligned again. When I ride now, there's no countdown running in the background. No anxious pressure to make it worth something. I ride and that's enough. Especially in the winter, the urgency's gone. What's left feels calm. And that carried over. My normal life things felt lighter. And this is not because of some dramatic change. It's because I stopped demanding answers from my feelings. Well, that's kind of crazy. Even just saying feelings feels vulnerable. Some mornings were outside, and some stayed inside. Either way, the days started to feel like they were working. Again. And over a few weeks, a pattern started to feel like it was settling in. Nothing dramatic, more a sense that this was the right approach. More balanced, more durable. It stopped relying on the fickle nature of how I felt when I woke up. And amazingly, that steadiness started to show up elsewhere. Doing hard things didn't feel heavier. They felt oddly familiar, like something I already knew how to work with. And looking forward, the road doesn't feel as anxiously urgent. It feels open. And of course, that leads to the next question I've been circling. What happens when this way of moving starts touching everything else? I started noticing it outside of cycling first. Guitar. House projects I've been circling for weeks, that same hesitation showed up. Yet this time it felt familiar. It didn't feel threatening. It felt recognizable. And I noticed it sooner. It wasn't loud, but it was like a familiar pattern that was announcing its arrival. And on the mornings when I would ride, even if I didn't want to, the rest of the day felt different. And not overly productive or artificially good, just solid. Like the day belonged to me, but not because I controlled it, because I just stayed with it. And there are places where this still hasn't landed yet. Drawing's one of them. I still avoid it in small, not so polite ways. The feeling is totally the same. The difference is the practice. You see, with cycling, the practice is already established. There's nothing to negotiate. And with drawing, that structure isn't fully there. So the mind fills the space, and I'm noticing that now. But I'm not trying to fix it, I'm just monitoring it with curiosity and just letting that simmer for a moment. Because that feels like the right place that this way of moving might want to go. Now, I don't feel like this solved anything. In fact, I think it just made the scope bigger. And actually, there's still a lot that I just don't understand. Probably most of it. And that used to feel overwhelming. Now it just feels unfinished. Like there's room to keep moving without needing a map. And the overwhelming idea that this work never ends doesn't scare me nearly as much anymore. There's just a lightness to each day moving forward. It's less loaded down and more open. But what I keep coming back to is attention. Not fixing, not correcting, just noticing what shows up. The resistance, the gaps, and of course the moments where I want to avoid. I've become a little curious about what happens if I stay there just a little longer each time, but not expecting sudden clarity and just allowing whatever's there to surface on its own timeline. As difficult as it is, that's a thread that I've found worth following. So now I just keep watching and see where that leads next. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a very fallible human. There are still plenty of places where I don't show up. Drawing, in particular, is one of them. I feel the urge to create piling on, and then I do nothing with it. But the thing is, instead of trying to beat myself up, I'll just clock it. No fixating or trying to fix. I just notice it. And that lightens up my mental bandwidth like none other. The pressure lifts and there's space again, with no expectation to fill it. I mean, sometimes something does and sometimes something doesn't. Lately, what I've been putting my attention on are these little sparks of interest. They're small and they're very easy to ignore. They don't explain themselves, they rarely make sense, they don't promise anything productive. I've been very curious to see where those lead, opposed to following expectation. And not expecting answers, just seeing where they point. And that's exactly what I want to explore next.